Quick! When $1.2 million drops in your lap, how do you invest it? I'm Bryan Ellis. I'll tell you exactly how right now in episode 161.
You're listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio, America's only podcast exclusively for affluent, self-directed investors, where each day of the week you receive innovative investment strategy and deadly accurate market analysis that's untainted by Wall Street and unblemished by government propaganda, all in 7 minutes or less. Coming to you now from iTunes, Stitcher, and SDIRadio.com, here's your host, Bryan Ellis.
Hello, SDI Nation. Welcome to the podcast of record for savvy, self-directed investors like you. What would you do if $1.2 million in investment capital just dropped in your lap? That's what happened to Ted, a listener to this show who recently completed the sale of one of his businesses and now has a cool $1.2 million of after-tax money just sitting there waiting to be deployed. Ted is a smart guy, brain surgeon level. But for Ted, like so many other people who are very successful in their own fields of endeavor, well, when it comes to investing, his logic kind of turns off sometimes. So Ted called me up and said, Bryan, I've got $1.2 million, and I've heard you talking a lot about these little houses in Birmingham that I can buy for under $60,000 each. I hear they're yielding net returns of 10 to 15% each, and my calculations say I could buy about 20 of them and would immediately have a net income of at least $120,000 a year totally passively. So Ted says, let's do it. I'd like to buy 20 of them. Well, folks, a few days ago, I promised you I was going to be even more transparent with you on this show than I have been, and so here it is. At that moment, I was counting my money. Selling 20 houses to Ted was going to make a lot of money for me, and it was really exciting. But then my rational mind returned to me. Now, look, I know something about Ted. He's a wealthy guy. This money, the $1.2 million he's trying to invest, it's not his only capital. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he's done very well for himself. So in that way, Ted makes the grade for somebody who is worthy of making a $1.2 million investment decision. But I had to ask Ted a couple of questions, namely, tell me how you feel about this, and also tell me how Vicky feels about this. Vicky is Ted's wife. Ted told me he's really excited. He's done some research into Birmingham, and he gets it, though he's still nervous about investing in the Southeast since he's never done it before. He also really likes the strategy we use for totally insulating him from the risk that the economy will decline or that his tenants will lose their income. Those things are no longer a concern for Ted, and he's definitely excited about getting a large income totally passively for the first time in his life and about all the tax benefits. He's checked out our property managers and feels good about them, and, he is nervous, but Ted's ready to take the plunge and buy 20 houses. Well, Vicky, his wife, well, she's also very interested and she's happy with what she sees on paper, but she's more cautious. Vicky is familiar with all the information Ted has, and she agrees with his assessment, but she's nervous. To Vicky, even though she and Ted have other assets, to her, $1.2 million is practically all the money in the world. And you know what? She should be feeling cautious. The fact is this. Ted and Vicky have never done business with me before. They've checked me out, that's for sure. They've given me the third degree, actually, as well they should. But they know me only because a friend of theirs who is a doctor in California referred them to this show. That particular doctor is a client who trusts me explicitly and allows me great latitude in allocating his portfolio, and we've done really well for him. So my client's referral carries a lot of weight with Ted and Vicky. And here's the thing. I'd like to do this deal with Ted and Vicky. It would be good for them. It would be good for me, a real win-win. But now, as in right now, this very moment in time, well, the timing isn't right for Ted and Vicky. Look, I told Ted I absolutely believe he's making a great decision for how to deploy that capital based on his financial situation and the other assets in his portfolio. But I proposed he adjust the timing. Here's what I mean. Instead of buying 20 houses right now, which Ted could do with the stroke of a pen, I proposed he buy only 2. Invest only about $120,000 rather than $1.2 million. Put the rest of the money in a 6-month CD, and during that 6 months, watch and see how those 2 houses do for him. If things go like he and Vicky expect, then they can deploy some or even all of the remainder at that time. Well, Vicky liked that plan. She liked it a lot. And here's what really tipped her over. I guaranteed her success. If things don't go like they want during that 6 months, then I offer to buy those 2 houses back from them for exactly what they paid. Who ever heard of a money-back guarantee on an investment property? Well, that's the way we roll here at SDI Radio. And it's just a no-brainer for me. These are great deals, and removing their risk is something I'm happy to do. There's a 99.99% probability they're going to love the experience, and if they don't, then I get to own an asset I believe in at a price that totally makes sense. It's a real win-win. So what about you? Many of you have been seriously considering either starting your rental portfolio or maybe expanding it. You've heard me talking about some of the great things we have going on in Birmingham, the insanely high cash flows, the complete immunity from economic risk, the absolute consistency of payments, the near elimination of vacancies. and you're really interested, but hey, who are we kidding? You've got some reservations. Maybe you live out in Hawaii or California, and to you, Birmingham and the Southeast generally is practically another world. Or maybe you think you know something about the business of owning low-priced homes, and it makes you nervous. So here's the deal. For a short time, I'm actually going to contractually guarantee your success as an investor in our properties in Birmingham. How? I'll commit in writing to buying back your property for what you paid for it if you're unsatisfied in any way whatsoever. I'll give you the details about this in the coming days, but for now, there are two things you need to know. First, next week, I'll offer a webinar that tells you all about the extraordinary opportunities we have available to you and how I'm personally guaranteeing your success. Again, this isn't theoretical. I'll put it in writing. To register for that webinar, go to sdiradio.com/cashflow. Again, that's sdiradio.com/cashflow. Do that right now. Now, here's the other thing. For now, I'm only going to make that guarantee offer for the next 10 houses sold. I've got to be able to honor my commitment and want to make sure we have the financial ability to do so. So 3 of those guarantees are already issued, leaving only 7. So if you'd like to try out what is absolutely among the very best real estate cash flow opportunities in America, and you'd like to do it without risking your capital, the time is now. If that's you, and if you have at least $60,000 in liquid capital you'd like to deploy right away into strong cash flow opportunities, then you should set an appointment with me right away by visiting sdiradio.com/consultation. You should do so immediately because I suspect there's a very real possibility that all 7 of the remaining guarantees will be gone even before the webinar begins airing next week, particularly since so many investors prefer to buy more than one of these properties at the time, and I'll be issuing the remaining 7 guarantees on the next 7 houses purchased, even if they're all purchased by the same person. So again, if you meet those financial qualifications and you'd like a chance to generate strong cash flows with perfect reliability and have a full guarantee, set up a consultation with my team right now by visiting sdiradio.com/consultation. So to Ted and Vicky and to every one of you out there, invest wisely today and live well forever.
Thank you for listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio with Bryan Ellis. Don't miss a single episode. Be sure to subscribe to Self-Directed Investor Radio right now on iTunes, on Stitcher, and at SDIRadio.com. Your feedback is always welcomed via email at feedback@sdiradio.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended as legal or professional advice for your situation. Content is the property of the Self-Directed Investor Society.